The presidency has said that the current reign of violence across the country have been sponsored by corrupt politicians and some criminal Nigerians. Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Shehu Garba, made this known in a chat with journalists in Abuja. He stated that the upsurge in the crime wave across the country have been perpetrated by the enemy of President Buhari.
But now, there has descended on the country a new era and a new aura that is ensuring the conclusion of these cases. A lot of these harsh attacks against the president are coming from people who had become used to lifestyles that they can no longer sustain. Look, on record, we have on record, there were people in this country, because they were influential, they had permanent suites attached to them at major hotels in Abuja. They will just come, they will take key, and live lavishly at public expense. And when they are leaving, they are accompanied by bags of Ghana must go. The president has blocked access to national resources by lazy people.
Shehu Garba explained further that the president is being fought because of his anti-corruption drive and his re-election bid in 2019.
And so therefore, he is being fought, not because people are not happy. This is a government that is building long-delayed infrastructure. This country will be a country of railways. There is no state in the country where a minimum of 2 federal roads are not either being newly constructed or being reconstructed. We have more power, electricity, than can be consumed by discourse. 2,000 megawatts of electricity, nobody is taking excess. And by the year's end, we're going to hit 10,000 megawatts from 2,600 that we inherited. And so the battle by government is, how do we sell this power? How do we take it to Nigerians who need it? So these things are building up, and I assure you that they won't give up as we inch our way towards the election. We will continue to fight the president, but the happiness we have is that ordinary, low-level Nigerians, they understand the huge conspiracy against them. They are with the president.
Shehu said despite the security challenges across the country, President Muhammadu Buhari still enjoys support of the masses ahead of 2019 presidential election. In Abuja, Nigeria, Muyiwa Bamdele reporting.
French President Emmanuel Macron has called on African countries to tackle the root causes of terrorism, such as economic and ethnic consideration in the region, as a way of finding lasting solution to jihadist tendencies that is fast gaining popularity. Emmanuel Macron, who is on an official visit to Nigeria, stated this while feeding questions from journalists during a joint press briefing with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Aso Rock Presidential Villa, Abuja.
First of all, I think the main plan is an African plan. And France is not the one to solve or fix African situations. I mean, this is a past period. So what we want to do, we intervene and we are still present in Africa and Sahel to fight against terrorism. But what's important to me is how the African governments in different African countries organize themselves to fight against terrorism and get rid of these people, and especially jihadism. Now, what we have to better understand is why so many people are convinced to join these jihadists and these terrorists. And that's what we discussed. And that's the second part of your questions. Because of sometimes economic or ethnic crisis. And that's where it's very important to build not just a security approach, but a stabilization approach in the same time, to provide new opportunities to these people and convey two messages. Your government will take care of you, I mean provide security. But second, your government can provide opportunities to you. And the best opportunity is not to join crazy people and get a belt of bombs and make crazy things. It's not an opportunity. It's an opportunity not to have any more opportunities. And I think it's very important.
The French president also took time to explain why he was visiting the historic Kalakuta Shrine in Lagos, one of the legacies of late Afrobeat king Fela Anikulapo Kuti, describing the place as a cultural heritage worthy of celebration.
First, because I think that's an iconic place for a lot of African people and African culture. And I think very often when you speak about African culture in Europe, you speak about those from Africa who succeeded in Europe or in France, which is totally different. Most of the times are not automatically very famous in Nigeria or in Africa. And there is a bias because you know people who are absolutely not the same. But I have to say, Fela, Femi Kuti and Sean Kuti are very famous even in France and Europe. They are big successes. But the shrine is I think, a cultural hub, an iconic hub. And it was very important for me. It's first a personal pleasure. But that's a way as well to say, with a lot of humility, I recognize the importance of this culture. I recognize the place of this culture in the current environment, in this current world.
Speaking earlier, President Muhammadu Buhari stated that most of the discussions he had with the French president revolved around the security of lives and properties around the Lake Chad region.
Of the region and how it can be successfully and politically integrated. Now, this takes a lot of time to discuss, but for Nigeria, what I personally emphasize is the inter-basin transfer of Lake Chad and the Sahel security. What France is doing, we all know, in trying to stabilize the region, especially in dealing with G5. In our own case, you can all recall when I came to this office, my first port of call was Chad, Niger, Cameroon, and Benin. Our neighbors that happen to be former French colonies. This makes a lot of sense. The best thing is to develop good relationship with your neighbors. It will cost you less in terms of material needed for development. And in this respect, I'm very grateful to France for the support we have been getting. The third one, of course, is a question of resources, and our fighting of corruption is contributing.
On the sidelines of the visit was the signing of 3 MOUs for the provision and development of transport infrastructure in Lagos, water resources in Kano State, and afforestation projects in Ogun State. These agreements were signed on behalf of the Nigerian government by Minister of Finance Kemi Adeosun and the Ogun State Governor Ibikule Amosun. From Abuja, I am Festus Ejiroga Nefife for Ben Television.
The People's Democratic Party's presidential hopeful Ahmed Buhari has assured Nigerians that if voted into power come 2019, he will ensure that the country is restructured, noting that there is no alternative to restructuring if the country's continued unity must be guaranteed. Ahmed Buhari, who differed from President Muhammadu Buhari over his opposition to decentralization of power to component units, of the Federation said the continued retention of much power at the central government was responsible for the many problems the country is facing in recent times. Ahmed Buhari made this known at his public declaration of his presidential ambition in Abuja.
We may be new, we may be young. Like a speaker earlier did describe, that experience is the enemy of innovation. Many people who have asked us, I've told them clearly that the experience required to give good leadership does not have to be earned through a political process. Every single one of us has the right to run for this office. Every single one of you can be the president of this country. And my story would interest you because I was just a little boy when I lost my father, at a time when my mother was just 32. So I know what it feels like to go hungry. I know what it feels like not to be sure of how your school fees will be paid. I know what it feels like not to be sure how your housing will be guaranteed.
He noted that he is ready to take his ambition to the very end, as he is determined to make Nigeria a great nation.
We've talked about these things, and we've talked about how we think it's important for us to have data management systems. For me, it's a shame when I hear my ministers talk about us with different figures. Some people say we're 180 million. Others say we are 200 million. 20 million is bigger than the size of, which country went to the World Cup with just 348? You can imagine, but they have a GDP that is doing very well. One of the big reasons why we can't have a country is because our borders are porous. One of the reasons why our borders are porous is because we don't have a proper system that can give us accountability, transparency, efficiency, and good governance. Until we are able to work on all of these things, we cannot have a people. So, as we move further towards 2019, there was a need for us to start talking about the platform we will run with.
Some dignitaries at the event called on all Nigeria to support the 40-year-old Buhari and allow the youth to take charge of power in 2019 general election.
So far, so good. We discovered that Nigeria desires something new. Nigeria people want something that is different from what they've been used to. Nigerians need innovative people. They say we don't have experience, but we discover experience is actually the enemy of innovation.
Oath to Mr. President to be, I want you to ensure that persons with disabilities are carried along in your government. In your agenda, make them your priority because they are humans and disability rights are human rights.
The worst part of it now, even if you see someone above 30, 35 with an employment, new employment later now, he bought it. They said employment, we know. Let's tell ourselves the truth. It's from the truth we will progress. Today, if you need an order in Nigerian Customs Service, if you have 1 million or 1.5 million, in the next 24 hours you will have it.
Ahmed Buhari is one of the few Nigerians who have indicated interest to run for the office of the president come 2019. In Abuja, LM Chukwemeka reports.
The Nigerian Senate has directed its Committee on Constitutional Amendment to resubmit the bill on state and community police within the next 2 weeks. The lawmakers who spoke during a debate on the killings in Plateau and other parts of the country insisted that only solution to the crime in the country is to establish state and community policing. Coming through a matter of urgent importance, former Governor of Plateau State, Senator Jonah Jang, lamented the situation and how people of the state are living in fear.
The Senate would note that the security challenges confronting our country with reference to some communities in the Plateau North and Central Senatorial Districts have become intractable. Also note the communities in Barkin Ladi, Riom, Josau, Bassa, Bokos, and Mangu local governments areas have been under persistent violent terror attacks from herdsmen, which have led to the murder and the displacement of many people. Worried that the recent attacks, which took place between Friday 22nd and Tuesday 27th of June 2018 in Barkin Ladi, Riom, Josau, Bokos, and Mangu local government areas, have led to the death of about 250 persons and so many others injured, now receiving treatment in different hospitals in the state.
The lawmaker also warned a fast track of the Police Reform Bill and the Peace and Reconciliation Commission Bill presently before its committee.
Well regulated, because some people are fearing about the abuse of this. They are fearing because we have not been able to decide how to make sure that it's not abused. So if we are able to come articulate processes and procedures that will ensure that this is not abused, I think that will go a long way in resolving this problem. So that each state will have the type of police they need, the number of policemen they need, and equip them the way they want, in such a way as to contain the problem they have in their state. This is what is happening everywhere in the world, from America to Europe to Asia, everywhere. That is how it is done. Police has been decentralized because criminals are multiplying, so you have to come up with initiatives on how to deal with it. The state is empowered in such a way, through social contract, to overwhelm criminals, but here criminals are overwhelming the state. So that is not acceptable. And the only way to ensure that police and security people overwhelm the criminals is to ensure that each state of this federation will have the number and type of police they need in order to contain what problem are confronting them.
What are our security agents doing? And because nobody has ever apprehended these people, or arrested them, or prosecuted them, they have been emboldened to do more things, commit more atrocities. So the question is, what is the problem? Is it that they don't have the necessary intelligence, or is it that the security agencies do not care, or are not in a position, or lack the capacity to handle this situation? So we need to beam our satellite on the leadership of the security agencies, and in fact, we need to beam our satellite on what these security agencies are doing. How have they been approaching this problem? So once there is impunity, once nobody takes responsibility, once nobody is arrested, and so long as nobody is arrested and prosecuted, this thing will continue to recur. Secondly is the political will. We've always had this problem. It's happening all over and over. In fact, yesterday I was watching YouTube and I saw the discussion, the debate in the House of Lords in UK on this issue. The House of Lords debating on the issue of killings in Nigeria. It means that this matter has gone international.
It will be recalled that about 200 people were killed in a deadly attack in 7 villages in Plateau State last week.